Hi everyone, this is Keith Pabian from Pabian Law, and this week what I want to talk about is the danger of H-2B workers taking second jobs. So I've been working with H-2B visa employers for a long time, and what I've noticed is that in the foreign national community, in the H-2B worker community, there's this belief with a lot of them that they can work second jobs. Now, here's what the law says, and the law is really clear on this. Workers can only work for the employer that sponsored them for H-2B visa status. So if I own a company, a seasonal business, and I want to employ someone, I have to go through this really long process to get approval from the federal government to employ that worker. Like I said, in the H-2B community, though, there are a lot of workers that truly believe that they're allowed to work for other employers. And it's actually really funny. I was doing manager training, which we do for clients all the time. And one of the senior leaders said to me, but don't the H-2B workers go through an orientation? Isn't there some lesson, some class that's provided to the workers so that they understand their obligations and what they're prohibited from doing when they come into the country? There's not. The workers are allowed to come into the U.S., and it's really on the employers to educate them on what they're allowed to do and what they're not. And again, it's really clear that workers are not allowed to work for any other employer in the United States other than the one that sponsored them. So I know that a lot of you, especially those that work with Pabian Law, I know that a lot of you do things right. And so then the question becomes, what if I know that workers are working elsewhere? What are my obligations? What are my risks if I know that a worker is working for another employer? So one thing that you should know is that if you know that someone is breaking the law, you are at risk. And under the Trump administration, criminal prosecutions of immigration violations are much higher than any other president. In fact, during President Trump's first term, criminal prosecutions of immigration violations or alleged immigration violations quintupled. Now, the risks of you getting charged criminally are probably a little bit low unless you're really doing something that the government would see as egregious. But what is more likely is that there are some real consequences. So first of all, if a worker is found to be working illegally for another employer, which again, if they're working a second job, that's an illegal situation, the government can arrest them and put them into immigration detention or send them home. In today's environment where people are getting picked up by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which the acronym is ICE, where people are getting picked up and put into detention centers and being sent all throughout the country and sometimes even across or even all around the world by the current administration, it's crazy to me that anyone would put themselves in that situation. No one wants to get put into immigration jail, which is really what detention is. And it's a very, very, very scary proposition. Second of all, and we see this sometimes, if an employer is ever interested in sponsoring a foreign national worker for U.S. permanent residency, which is green card is the slang phrase for that, if we or the employer finds out that the worker has been working illegally in that second job, it can actually make it so that we can't move forward with the application, right? Because we always have to be truthful in any application, and we always have to list all employment on application forms. Similarly, if the government finds out that they've been working illegally, it goes back to that same risk, which is people could be put in detention. Even if not, if the government ever found that someone was working that second job, they could be forever barred on coming back to the country, whether that's in a work status or as a visitor. If they want to go on vacation here, they might never be able to step foot again in the United States. Finally, I've seen this firsthand where one of our clients was legally employing people and people were working second jobs. If those workers are sent home or being put into detention, the risk to that primary employer, the one that's doing things correctly, the risks are that they could be without the workers for the rest of the season, and they could be without those workers forever if they're longtime hires. In addition, it could increase the chances that primary employer gets audited by immigration to see if there's any wrongdoing happening there. All of this being said, all of the lessons I'm trying to impart here are don't allow workers to believe that they can work second jobs. Incorporate this training into orientation, educate the workers on all of the risks of them working second jobs, and really try to ingrain in them this understanding that they are only allowed to work for the employer that sponsored them for the US visa. I encourage you to share this with other HR professionals, other seasonal organizations. This is a really important lesson, and it's something that I think as an industry we can all do better of educating the workers on, and making sure that your organization is safe and secure in the H-2B program, and that you can rely on workers for years to come. Thank you all so much. Again, this is Keith Pabian with Pabian Law, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.